Well, hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to invite our panelists today just to quickly turn on their microphones and obviously their cameras. So we've got Paul, Joanna, and Phil, all present and correct, all technology working, which is good to see. So welcome, everybody. My name is Steve Phil, and I'm the Partnership Director here at Portugal Pathways, and your host for today's webinar, Buying or Building a New Home in Portugal. Our expert panel today will guide you through the latest luxury Portuguese real estate trends, regional property hotspots, and the nuances of building or buying a new home on one of the most luxury developments in Portugal. We'll also discuss the significance of location when choosing to build, buy, or invest in property, and hear what the experts' insights are about those topics. We'll also be looking at some of the research findings following the latest report on Portugal's luxury real estate market from International Real Estate Organization Property Market Index and how it compares with other regional and international markets. Just before we proceed, I would like to remind everyone watching that today's webinar is being recorded. After the webinar, both the recording and a link to the recent Property Market Index report on Portugal's property hotspots and trends will be available and shared with everybody. Also, please don't forget to share your thoughts and comments and questions in the chat. We'll be having a sort of a 10 to 15 minute Q&A segment towards the end of today's hour-long webinar. So again, if you hear anything, if you've got any comments, any questions, obviously please leave those in the chat. Obviously our experts will try to answer all the questions within the hour, but if we don't get to every question, we don't cover off every single question, we will contact people directly after the event with the meeting, or set up meetings or give you obviously the answers and obviously get those relevant partners introduced to you. So yeah, joining us today, we have Joanna Branquinho. Joanna is the CEO and founder of Aurea Real Estate Advisors, who are based in Lisbon. Joanna has over a decade of experience in the luxury real estate market, supporting high net worth clients and affluent private individuals in navigating of the luxury Portuguese real estate market in and around Lisbon. Joanna really believes in making sure that the customer objectives sit at the heart of any advice, and her team can guide them in their investment or with researching buildings or buying a new home through one of their new home development partners. And joining Joanna, we have Philip Button, Managing Director at Brooks Property Group. Now, Phil has over 30 years of experience as a chartered certified accountant and held central management and strategic planning roles in the leisure industry before joining Brooks & Co. in 1998. Since founding their international luxury real estate business in 2004, he has facilitated over $500 million in property transactions. And they have built a major luxury development in Florida, Antigua, and the Bahamas, and are about to launch their luxury Quinta Heights development in the central Algarve area in Portugal. And they have an extensive plan, obviously, to increase the portfolio of luxury new developments in other parts of Portugal over the next 5 years. Quinta Heights has just launched and has already sold more than 25% of the development off plan of the central Algarve luxury new home development, which is near Ferraguda and Claverio. Finally, we have Paul Stannard. Paul is the chairman here at Portugal Pathways. He is also an international entrepreneur who has developed media and innovative platforms, as well as rating indexes for international real estate. Today, he will be sharing some of the findings from the latest independent report from Property Market Index on Portugal's luxury real estate market. He also has a background in alternative investment funds and will share with the audience Portugal Pathways' latest initiative relating to Golden Visa residency by investment. So again, thank you all for joining us today. So let's get started. I really want to touch on a few crucial topics such as location and why it's so important when choosing to buy, build or invest when it comes to new luxury property. Phil, you have plenty of experience on this topic as you've built numerous new home developments successfully around the world. It seems obvious, but how important is location when making the decision? And what can you share from your decades-long experience on this? And just finally, what went into identifying the right locations in Portugal for the Quinta Heights project?
Okay, well, thanks, Steve. I think that's a multifaceted question. So let's try and break that down. We have been involved in lots of different developments and projects over the last 20 years or so, about 60 in total. It starts, as most accountants you'd expect to start, with doing their homework, making sure that you do the due diligence on the area, and that is a combination of legal, financial, and commercial due diligence. But you also have a look at all sorts of other factors. So in the case of the Algarve, for argument's sake, we've done a lot of projects overseas in in Florida, but also some of the other southern states, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and into the Caribbean. But when we started in the Algarve, we did it as a result of demand from existing clients. And we came with an open book. Our own experiences were in the Golden Triangle, in Quinta and Almondshill and Valdelobo, but we wanted to keep an open book. So we started looking at everything from the Spanish border in the east to the far west point in Sagres. And what we did there was just look at very carefully every project until we picked the location. And when we arrived at Quinta Heights, what we liked about it was it hit the sweet spot in terms of the actual location itself. Sat in a very prominent position. So you had 360-degree views of the sea, the countryside, the mountains. We're in that Cordero Ferragudo area. We could see demand moving towards the west. So our timing was right. And a key element of any decision is the location. It's critical. So it came at the end of quite a long research process, and we picked that location, for many reasons. But that was our process, Steve.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Phil. That's really interesting. So with regards to, I just want to say it looks an amazing project. Did I hear correctly that your master plan even includes a magical secret garden as well as an observatory for your owners to enjoy sort of stargazing at night?
Yeah, it does. It's a great question. You can see from that image you have up on the screen at the moment, because we sit on the crown of the hill, our development is 42 acres in total, but you get to look down the channel across some beautiful gardens towards our facilities. So in that whole master plan, we have a great spa and yoga studio. We've got a centerpiece, and maybe it's a typically English thing, a typically British thing, but we love our parks and gardens. So that idea was about a series of private gardens that only the owners could have the key to. And it was a combination of century gardens with lovely smells of jasmine and lavender, to a little bit of nod to my time in Central Florida with citrus gardens, and it all culminated in what we called the observatory garden. And it dated back to our research into Portugal as a seafaring nation, along with Spain, along with the UK. And in the far western point was a guy called Henry the Navigator, 15th century prince. And we could see that Portugal, like us in the UK, like us in Great Britain, would navigate around the world, and the stars and the sky would be really, really important. This part of the Algarve has minimal light pollution. And so we felt it would be a really, really nice thing to have our own observatory. So we don't have a 28-inch refractor like we have in Greenwich in London, but we got a 16-inch refractor telescope, and we'll be able to very clearly see some of those amazing things in the night sky from our own observatory in our own private gardens, where only our owners and their friends and family can go and use it. So it's a little bit self-indulgent, Steve, but I thought if I like it, my friends and clients will probably like it too. So
Absolutely,
that's the backdrop to it.
Well, both features, I would imagine, are truly unique, and obviously a fantastic addition. I'm sure, obviously, it will be as popular as anything with obviously those luxury property buyers. Joanna, you have a lot of experience in and around the complexities of the capital city, Lisbon, and its outlining areas which are evolving and growing by the day. Clearly, like any capital city, you have to know where the enclaves are that are ripe for capital growth, but you also need to make sure that you meet the personal objectives of private buyers coming to the market, some with limited knowledge. How do you do this, and what are the areas and the developments that you are exciting you at the moment?
So thank you so much for this question. So actually, as advisors and being on the center of the decision of many clients, because we work mainly with international clients, so the knowledge is quite limited. And although people understand that they can actually browse and search and educate themselves, it's always very different to have a local expert that can guide you in the ins and outs of the locations and the neighborhoods and the opportunities. And also in terms of the city, so we are based in Lisbon. We do cover, all the market, because we work with all the developers and other brokers in the market. So we try to understand really well what the clients want, and sometimes what they don't know they want, and we try to guide them through the best decisions. So giving the pros and cons of each neighborhood or each city, and also show them alternatives. As you said, and very, very correct. So Lisbon has grown a lot in the last 8 years, mainly, which was when the boom started. And basically, we are limited on space. And I feel, I say Lisbon like Cascais, Estoril, all the line of the water, and a bit of the cities around. So, but mainly Lisbon, because it's still where the main demand is, because it's the capital of Portugal. We have serious restrictions in terms of building in height. It's not like Dubai or Singapore. So we are not building in height, so the demand is still very high compared to the offer. So naturally, we have many locations that are getting interesting, because it's the natural evolution of the dynamic of the market, and Portugal is really on the map for internationals, and the nationals need to live somewhere. So basically, our job is also we deal a lot with investors, and even people that want to buy a first home or a second home. We always keep an investment mindset behind, because people change their lives. And especially when buying new developments, like we are saying, or building, this is a process that takes sometimes 2 years, or even sometimes 3 years, and life can change. So it's always good to be in a location that can appreciate, that can be dynamic. And there are many little cities and neighborhoods that are clearly developing around Lisbon, and that we also suggest to clients. Sometimes people don't even know, because they never heard about them. And we try to, according to the lifestyle each one has or they want to have, we try to direct people to other alternatives. Okay, so that's basically, and there are a number of offers coming up. So either you want a more quiet lifestyle, you don't have such a high budget to be in the hot spots of the cities, but you want to have a really good quality development and being like 30 minutes away from Lisbon. That's a very common request. And there's a lot of new opportunities coming on. And for example, there's a really new development and very interesting for retirees as well, which is 30 minutes from Lisbon, has all the amenities, is now pre-launching as well. We'll have medical care, we'll have all the lifestyle and vibration of activities near the lake and nature. So, Portugal is really positioned itself in the map for different audiences and different nationalities. And we do 20 nationalities at least a year. So it really can be very diverse in terms of demand from different people, and whether investment, second home, or just relocation, we can target the best things for each person.
Thank you, Joe. That's great. Paul, I know that you have a lot of expertise and knowledge regarding some of the property hotspots to look out for in Portugal. Could you share some of your personal thoughts and insights from the latest property market index report on the sort of trending locations and why they are so important for obviously the international real estate buyer? I think we've got some slides for you to talk to here, Paul. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'll just load those up for you.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, Portugal is thriving. I mean, it was recently named in the Wealthy Expats report the #1 relocation destination for wealthy people in the world. It's been second or third, and now it's come up as #1 in this latest report. And it's because of the safety and security, but I think also the lifestyle, the culture, and the people. You know, they're very welcoming, they're very open. But going back to Joanna's point earlier, there's more demand than there is supply because of that. You know, because of the aura that's sort of currently around Portugal. You know, it's been called everything from the Switzerland South to the new California. So it's, you know, it's got new titles by every day. But a lot of it's linked to regeneration, growth trends in certain locations. You know, Phil talked about earlier what's going on with the Central Algarve area. You know, the Golden Triangle, you know, has got, you know, prices that have inflated there. And, you know, it's become a little bit more new money homogenized. You know, some people want that. But other people want a little bit more authenticity, and we're seeing, you know, these pockets all around the country, really. You know, from Porto to the Silver Coast to the, you know, the Tejo River region that I know Joanna's going to talk a bit more about later, and places like Ferraguja and Carverio, Benagil. They're all rising up at the moment, and because, you know, what they bring and the quality of the offerings now. You know, if you went back 5-10 years ago, they built holiday homes. Now people are building homes, and that, you know, the footprint and what they bring are, you know, observatories. Who would have thought, you know, back in the day? So, you know, it really has changed that market. And then if you look at the international markets, which are on another slide, if you look at the overall trends, North America and Europe are trending behind Portugal. So they're seeing slight declines, and Portugal is still seeing growth. And in fact, last year was the highest capital growth the country's had in, I think, 15 years. And 2024 hasn't gone quite at the same pace, but it's still growing much faster than the rest of Europe and North America. And there was some stats out only a week ago that parts of the Central Algarve have seen 10% increases in value, which doesn't surprise me. And then other areas sort of on the outskirts of Lisbon, where there's a lot of development going on to support the city and a lot of infrastructure coming in with the new airport, we can see only more of this continuing for the next 3 to 5 years.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. Joanna and Philip, you're on the ground in these marketplaces. Are you seeing similar patterns? So what are you guys experiencing, and how do you see the market over the next sort of 2 to 3 years sort of evolving? Joanna, if you can go take this one first, please.
Yes, sure. So, I mean, the market has been, again, very dynamic, as Paul is saying. I think the main reasons were stated, but I would say, especially nowadays, the security is the main one that is driving people here to Portugal. And also the fact that, I mean, 70% of the population speaks English, so everyone can integrate very easily here. So that is and also the quite central position in the map, because we are a tiny country that a lot of people didn't knew about, but actually we are extremely well connected to US and also to the rest of Europe. And the level of education is good. So I could be here 1 hour saying good things about Portugal. I think that's not the case, but in reality, in terms of the market, it has been dynamic, and answering a little bit to some questions I see in the chat. Indeed, because the demand is higher than the offer, the speed of new homes that are building is not enough to the demand that exists, okay? And basically, we see the prices with the increase line, even during these last 12 months, that it slowed down a little bit, not only because the war, the inflation, the interest rates, but it still kept the value and increased slightly, okay? So this is a sign that it's a very resilient market, and it has capacity to grow more. The fact that it's easy to get a mortgage, the fact that it's easy to do a transaction from abroad, you know, we can, sometimes people don't even come to Portugal to do the transaction, they can do it from distance. And we see the market evolving also in different directions. So some new developments in different locations, like Setúbal, in the other side of the river, Caparica. The Silver Coast will grow dramatically because it's beautiful, it has beach, it starts 30 minutes from Lisbon. There's a surf mundial reserve. A lot of people, like the Californians, love that area, but also other countries, honestly. Portugal is also creating more infrastructures and international schools in these locations. Okay, so I know we will come to this later on and to many of those questions that you have. So we see the market still very active and quite interesting on the point of view of developing more and the investment opportunity as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Phil, anything to add to that from Joanna?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I echo what Joanna said. I think that's right. You know, because we're chartered certified accountants with financial guys, for us it starts as research. Before we got involved in opportunities in Portugal, we've made 2,000 or more sales elsewhere in the world, and our clients wanted things closer to home, closer than you know, the US or the Caribbean. And we looked at France, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, and for many reasons, Portugal was the place of choice. And you look at you know, that turnaround post the financial bailout in 2011, and 4 years to recover. From 2016 onwards, that market has moved significantly. You know, we've got a situation now where it's economically prosperous, politically stable. We looked at that demand and supply, particularly for the product type. And what we found when we did our research, but there was a big imbalance between demand and supply, particularly for contemporary products. And it met with our own expectations. We like that type of clean lines and glass. And so our view was, if we could deliver a great product, finished to a high spec, in the right location, in the growing market, at the right price, there would be quite a lot of demand for it. And that's what we believe we've done at Quinta Heights. We see that carrying on for at least the next 3 years and possibly further. I think all the fundamentals are right in the Portuguese economy. So we're very pleased to be involved now and in the future.
Yeah, it's good to see, obviously, a global, you know, sort of player such as yourself who experienced many markets, that Portugal was your next stop. I mean, that's very reassuring. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Joanna, could you sort of also share from your experience what you see from international buyers? You know, what are they looking for in luxury home developments in Portugal, and what should buyers or investors keep in mind when it comes to buying or indeed building a new property or researching sort of homes in Portugal?
So, before, we have a couple of questions. So first of all, as we work mainly with international clients and a lot with buyers, so we basically understand pretty well what they are looking for. And most of the people end up looking at Lisbon because it's still the capital, obviously, and things around. Locations like Algarve is number 2. Madeira, the islands, is currently number 3, and Porto number 4. So these are the main ones, but there is a large type of demand in terms of second locations that are becoming very interesting, like we explored as well. And they are going to be even more developed along the time, like Alentejo, a lot of people looking for second homes and holiday homes in the nature. Also, cities around Lisbon, it's becoming really, really popular. Everything around 40 minutes to Lisbon, that you can have a very diverse lifestyle. I would say that Porto is also growing. We also assist people there, and people like that like a smaller city. And then in terms of new developments, typically international clients are more comfortable buying in a new development, not only because it's everything brand new and usually more contemporary, but also because you have guarantee on construction. So, I mean, you are much more safeguarded along the way and for the future, having something brand new. In other terms, in terms of value for money, so typically your property will appreciate at least 15 to 20% along the time that is completed. And you can be the first or second or early to choose. So you can choose the best properties. And basically, you don't need to put all your equity on. So this is very beneficial in terms of conditions for buyers. When it comes to building, then it's a different story. So not all the buyers are brave enough to build their own home. And that's why most of them end up buying in a new development, because they leave that dirty job to someone that is really focused on that. So basically, we also assist people that want to build. And in that terms, we need to be a little bit more careful, because it really depends if it's an individual, if it's a developer that want to build a business. So the advisory is a little different. We always need to be careful with the licensing process and basically all the costs involved, all the partners like architects, builders, inspectors, because building something from abroad is just a little bit more challenging. That's why new development has been, for example, for us in the last 10 years, we sell 60 to 70% a year is new developments, okay? Wherever location it is, but because people feel safer and basically they will have a brand new product that appreciate, and they can live, they can use as a holiday home, they can rent, or they can resell and make some money. So it's very attractive on that sense.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joanna. Phil, you've helped well over 2,000 international investors sort of buy property around the world, as we alluded to earlier. Obviously, and as a chartered accountant by trade, what are the key pointers you would give to anybody looking at investing or buying a new home in Portugal?
I think the first thing, Steve, is obviously to do your homework. Whoever you are, however experienced or inexperienced you are, you need to know what you're getting into. You need to, I mentioned a little bit earlier, our process is to do commercial due diligence, legal due diligence, and financial due diligence. And all three of those disciplines are really, really good. And people can either align themselves with entities like us, or make sure they engage their own lawyer that will look into the legalities of a market, how contracts law works in Portugal. And the same with the financials. Make sure you look at the market, do your comparable analysis, make sure you're buying the products at the right price, have tangible evidence to support that, and the commerciality of the type of property in the location, and if you're buying, for what reasons are you buying. I think the fundamental thing with all of those, the fundamental advice is to do your homework, make sure you know what you're doing. If you don't, align yourself with a strong professional team. Joanna's just said exactly that a moment ago, and we took a long time to build our team for Quinta Heights. We've got a very, very creative architect in Marcelo Santos at SMS, but that tender process just for the build, we went through a long period of picking 5 builders that could build a resort like Quinta Heights. Then we went through about a 4.5, 5 month process in going systematically through that tender process. So whether you're a company, an entity like us that are building developments in different parts of the world and now in Portugal, or you're selecting your own home or building your own home, surround yourself with the right people, do your homework, make sure you're not sleepwalking into an environment that you're not familiar with, and make sure that it's an informed decision when you come to make that decision.
Absolutely. No excuses nowadays for not doing research. One of my colleagues, I'm sure, will put up, obviously, for research and for insight, please visit www.portugalpathways.io. There's plenty of information on there if you've got any research that you need to do. So thanks for that, Phil. Joe, could you also walk us through the steps buyers would need to take to secure an investment or a new home via one of the developers that you work with?
Yes, sure. So basically, regardless of what you are buying, but focus here on the process. So typically what we always do is we start with an exploratory call to understand exactly what people want and to go through all the Q&A that people want to have. Like, for example, advisory on the location and the type of property that suits better each person, regardless if it's investment or second home or relocation, and also all the process. So we try to really explain people what are the costs associated, what are basically the steps. So when you initiate the process, you really know exactly what you expect and how quickly you need to move, okay? So basically, in terms of a normal process, let's say, what we would say is when you evaluate a property or a series of properties and you identify the one that suits you, basically we start with an offer, a negotiation. Then we will do a reservation. The reservation is exactly done you pay a deposit, a small deposit that will block the unit from other possible buyers and allow the due diligence made by a lawyer and for you to put the bank account or the funds ready to the first commitment. Then you will have a promissory agreement, okay? And this is the first binding document where all the rules are written and where it is identified the buyer, the seller, and the property, okay? So basically this is the first binding document when you put a down payment and basically where everything is stated. For example, here in new developments, you will put all the finishes list, what happens if the developer takes longer to deliver than expected, what sort of penalties, how can you be safeguarded, what can you expect in terms of finishes and brands of appliances, for instance. So everything is stated there, okay? And the final, so then you will have some installments to be paid during the construction, and at the end you will do the closing, the deed, we call it the deed, where you pay the final amount, and it's the moment where you take the ownership and you pay the taxes, okay? So basically, there are a couple of taxes that you pay on the purchases. Here, you should expect around 7 to 80% of the purchase price. And basically, that's more or less, I think I covered more or less the process to engage with the property purchase.
Very detailed. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you very much. Phil, over to you. So in terms of your Quinta Heights development, as part of the build process, what kind of deposits and stage payments are required and timelines?
Yeah, I think, as you know, we're the developer, so we've got a little bit more scope than most to structure however we like. And typically, our background as accountants and business planners and helping people with their choices, whether they're property related or otherwise, we see those clients as investors. So it tends to vary. So if you're a straightforward lifestyle buyer, you put a 30% deposit down, and then you'll sign the promissory contract, and then we'll build the project, which is a 18 to 24-month period. If you're a UK or overseas investor, if you're coming in to our entity as an investor, you will typically get preferential terms. So you won't make any stage payments during the construction period. You will get preferential pricing as well. So we tend to sell at the market price in the market, or in the case of Kinta Heights, we're probably 30 to 50% off under the market price because we're 18 to 24 months off plan. But our UK clients and investors that might not just be the UK, but they come to us as an entity, we'll give them a preferential price and a preferential payment term. So it just depends on the circumstance and the origination of the potential buyer.
Thank you, Phil. Got that. Thank you. I'd like to sort of pose this next question to, again, back to sort of Joanna. How does the regulatory environment for developing new homes in Portugal work? Does it support or hinder buyers or real estate investors? What are the downside protections? As I understand it, it's a very stable market when it comes to international real estate.
Yes, so basically, I mean, when we speak about when you are developing a home, basically you always need to take some steps that are mandatory. So you need to always submit a project in the city hall and follow a couple of steps to developing within the rules. Okay, when you are buying, for example, in a new development, basically you will be safeguarded by the Portuguese law under the contract, and basically it's very important, and we always have this in mind, to work with the best developers that have a proven track record as well. Because, for example, in Portugal, we rarely use bank guarantees or escrow accounts, okay? So it's very important that we are reassured by the developer that we have in front, their capacity, and basically we can register contracts. All the legal team that the buyer can have around will safeguard that. I can tell that it works pretty well because, again, it's a very stable market. In terms of legal commitment, there's always ways to safeguard buyers, okay? And it's, how can I say this? It's a safe place to make business, so we don't see, there are rules. We have basically a certain kind of documents that we need to make sure we have in place. It's very, there are regulation, it's quite strict, even for building, for example, new builds, they need to be all anti-seismic. There's a number of, regulations that developers need to meet, and it doesn't make life easier sometimes because the process can be quite intense. But on the other hand, it's very good because it gives buyers a lot of security, okay? So on that end, buyers can expect that the quality will be very good compared to other countries in Europe or even out of Europe. And basically, there are a lot of steps, legal steps that need to be safeguarded, regardless if you are buying in a new development or if you are buying and building your new home, okay? The most important is always to get the right advisory and the right team around you, I would say. Absolutely.
Thank you, Joanna. This next question is for everybody on the panel. How do you see the Portuguese sort of luxury property market evolving over the past decade? And what future trends do you sort of anticipate? I'll come to you, Paul, first, that one.
Yeah, sorry, Steve. Could you? I was just trying. There was a lot of chat questions coming in. I was reading the chat. I was about to answer one. Could you just ask me that one again?
Yeah, certainly. So I was asking the panel as a whole how they'd seen the Portuguese sort of luxury property market evolve over the past decade. So what's been happening over the last sort of 10 years, and what future trends do we sort of anticipate?
Yeah, I mean, a lot's been said about it being stable. Portugal before the financial crisis and during the financial crisis, it was in a lot of financial trouble. Like a number of smaller countries in Europe. But how it's come back, with the strength of the Golden Visa, residency by investment program, the NHR tax regime, which has been an unbelievable success at driving inward investment, and even with the new plans that it has coming in for what they're calling NHR 2.0, which is trying to encourage more entrepreneurial, more innovation, and more business-related endeavors in the country, as well as academic and high-value job creation. There are new incentives that I think are going to propel it even further forward. And I see one of the chat questions was, has the market had a number of corrections? Because in a rising tide, you can always get a punch in the nose, and the market has a correction. And it's had 2 or 3 corrections, but none of them have been specifically because of what's gone on in Portugal. There have been global trends like COVID or the Eurozone challenges back in 2015, 16. And because it's on that end of Europe, on that corner, it doesn't have a lot of the migration issues that some of the other parts of Europe are suffering with. And it's, you cannot emphasize that business of language, that language of business, English, having 70% of the population speaking English, and, educated population, I think, I only see continued growth over the next few years and beyond.
Thank you for that, Paul. Very, very, very detailed. Phil, anything to add to what Paul was saying there?
Yeah, I think what both Joanna and Paul said obviously make a lot of sense. From our standpoint, what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years is a little bit of a shift from people being very focused on areas that they know, particularly the Golden Triangle, and you see a lot of British people and Irish people in that area, and they realise there's things a little further west and further east, and we're getting people drifting down to the centre and the west, and where we are in Ferragudo, there's a big a growing demand there from in terms of nationalities. More recently, we've seen Canadian buyers come in, some Central Europeans, whereas in the early days it was predominantly English and Irish people. As that economy becomes a bit more diverse, we just see those markets opening up in North America, and we've got agent and representation. I did a big launch event to the estate agents a couple of weeks ago, and we've already signed up 52 different agents, including all of the big ones in the Algarve, and they're all saying the same thing. You're getting this trend towards value. People are drifting out a little bit from the centre. They're seeing products like ours as representing really good value, and there's this feeling of getting away from some of the things that are a little bit they're a little bit tired of paying €500 for a family meal in a big restaurant in Kinshasa when they can get the same meal at a quarter of the price a few miles further west, and it's more typically quintessentially Portuguese. So we're seeing that realization that there's more to Portugal or more to the Algarve than certain locations. So that's my take on it.
The clientele are becoming more educated. Always a good thing.
I think so.
Yeah. So again, moving on. This next question again applies to everybody, and Joanna, I'll start with you. How important are sort of local amenities like schools, healthcare, culture, cuisine, leisure facilities to the sort of value and appeal of luxury properties in Portugal?
I would say it's very important. We have many clients that choose the schools before the houses, because it's a very important thing for them and for their family, especially when they are relocating. So I would say that in terms of infrastructures, we are, it's quite developed in general, and it's only improving. So, I mean, flight connections, train connections, also in terms of international schools, it's really growing a lot because the audience, I mean, some years ago, what we were looking was people mainly coming for investing or second home. And now there are a lot of people relocating here, families, also the desire for bigger homes. The demand is very high at the moment. And sometimes we don't have offer to people that want big homes, especially Lisbon and 1 hour around. So for sure, these kind of things make a lot of sense. I would say the remaining are the ones that everyone loves, like the cuisine, the amenities you can find, the lifestyle, the quality of life and cost of living, which is very, very appealing. And even the price of houses, because a lot of people say it's getting higher than Paris or London. It's not true, okay? This is really not true. Even in Lisbon, our office is like in the heart of Lisbon, on the Champs-Élysées of Lisbon, of Liberdade. And within 10, 15 minutes walking distance, you have properties with 5,000 per square meter. So it's not everything on 10,000, as some people say, but obviously, if you want luxury real estate in the best locations, those will be more expensive, right? So this is the case everywhere in the world. But you have a lot of options, and especially if you open up 15 minutes to Lisbon or 30 minutes to Lisbon, you have really plenty of opportunities, and consider very luxury quality, but for all kind of prices. Okay, so I would say that is the current status.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Also, with obviously some of these new home developments, so what level of personalisation and sort of going the extra mile in terms of the lifestyle elements are important? Phil, I'll come to you. You mentioned, private gardens and obviously observatories, but in terms of level of personalisation, what are you sort of seeing now?
Well, I think from if somebody's buying real estate in the luxury sector and paying a high price point, they want the standard spec to be very high, and the ability to customize your property and personalize various elements of it are really important. So we've started with a very high specification of standard. We've gone with a resort an amenity package that is on a par with pretty much anything else in the Algarve, so that people have got all of those facilities, amenities on their doorstep. And then when it comes to their product itself, we've also done, we have a partnership with Porcelanosa, who are quite a big brand in Portugal, and people get a chance to customize their bathrooms and their kitchens, so they can pick the type of shower head and the taps and the basins. And in the kitchens, we've got, Bora extractor hoods, and we've got Kuka taps, and we've got high specification finishes. And people can pick, buyers can pick the colors and the types because at that end of the market, at that luxury end of the market, people want to have an input into their product. They want to customize, and quite rightly, they should have that choice to do that. So we can let people come into our show home at Quinta Heights, come into our sales center, or go into the Porcelanosa showroom in Lule and take a look there. But the important thing is they have choice, and they have a say in the finish and the spec of their own property.
A discerning buyer. So I'm conscious that we're getting obviously a lot of questions that are coming in the chat, and obviously we'll try and get to the Q&A part shortly, but we obviously still have a few topics to cover off and questions. Phil, I'm going to come back to you and just ask if you could quickly sort of share a success story of clients or investors who have successfully invested in your projects, and how you make sure that there is investment value as well as lifestyle value in your projects.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and answer that question quickly.
I know it's a tough one.
Yeah. I'll have a go at it, Steve. I'll have a go at answering it quickly. We are accountants and financial guys, so our background is about making people money. We just happen to be developer of a great project in Quinta Heights. So we tend to start with recognizing where markets are. So as we went through that post financial crisis in 2007, 2008, we found opportunities in different parts of the world. In Florida, for argument's sake, we watched markets go from 2007 with product prices dropped significantly for 3, 4, 5 years. We did a big resort in Central Florida called Reunion Resort and Club, where land prices to build big villas were $200,000 US dollars, and they dropped all the way down to $30,000. We tracked that, and when they hit the bottom of the market, we bought those land plots, 37 of them over about a 6-month period, direct from banks and foreclosures at the bottom of the market. They went back to about 150,000. So it was in the next 5 years. This was about market knowledge. This was about making sure you do the fundamentals. You come in at the right point in the market. You do your research. You come into countries that are politically stable. You find opportunities, but it comes on the back of research. And it's what we've always done, Steve, for the last 20 years or so. It's just now we're more able in our own developments to influence the pricing because they are our own developments.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That was quick. That was very informative and concise.
Yeah, I tried to be quick, Steve. I tried to be quick.
I'm just going to come on to the sort of risks and pitfalls. Obviously, there are risks and there are pitfalls. So, again, Joanne, I'm going to go to you with this one. What do you see that are common in property buyers? And maybe Phil could then obviously put his opinion afterwards as well. So, risks and pitfalls.
Well, I would say that the main risk will be for you to choose properly what you want and where you want to buy, because especially when you don't know the country, is really important that you do some research, but again, also have someone local that understands the locations, then different locations to advise you on what makes more sense for you and for each case. And basically to choose the best property you can make. I would say another risk is basically it's very important to understand before what is your situation, your tax regime or your visa situation, or like explore the full situation before you actually start buying. For example, for an investor, if it's better to buy under individual name or through a company, if you want to make more than one investment, for instance, or if you want to do it with mortgage to explore your capacity before you buy. And really, I would say these are the main risks, we obviously try to minimize all the risks to buyers, and we do spend a lot of time in the early stages, not to go to risks afterwards, so we really are detailed. We try to advise clients very early and to really understand what they are expecting, and try to diverse people on different positions. And we also introduce people to lawyers, to tax experts, so they can actually understand what is the best position and the best alternative for each individual, okay? Because that will play a role as well. Sometimes some people want a kind of a regime that you don't even need to buy, you can rent. So, it can be a little bit diverse. So it's good to see case by case and provide a bespoke service on that end. So really people, try to overcome those little risks of transactions from abroad.
Thank you, Joe. Now, I'm really conscious that we're approaching the hour mark, and obviously the conversation's been flowing. There's been lots of detail here. We have got some questions that I'd like to ask the panel before obviously we get to the Q&A. So, Phil, with regards to your experience, the other parts of the world, how does obviously the other locations of developing properties in places like Florida and Bahama compare to Portugal? And why are we seeing so much value and future opportunity in Portugal rather than obviously other international markets?
Yeah, I think a lot of those places, that timing is important. I mentioned a moment ago about Florida and recognizing that post-financial period where there was a crash in property prices, and there was an opportunity to buy at low points in the market, just as 2005 was a record year for property growth in Central Florida, around 25% across the board. So it's recognizing those things in places like the Bahamas and the Caribbean. We're also they tend to be lifestyle driven, a lot of those things. So it's very much about people and looking to change their lifestyles and on those kind of things. But just picking up on that point a moment ago, Joanna's point, we like to use a bit of a checklist to our clients when trying to answer that question, what should you look out for? And we run with a what, why, when, where, and how. And we ask people to just run that little checklist of, where are they buying? To answer the question that Joanna answered just a moment ago, where are they buying? They're buying for, is there growth in, is there growth in that area? Are they trending like we're seeing those trends out from the central to the west? Why are they buying is a really important question. Is it for investment? Is it for lifestyle? Is it for both? When timing's crucial, because markets change over time. We see it in London just prior to the Olympics. We see big growth in a particular area, big opportunities to make money. What type of property? We clearly see more demand for contemporary products over traditional products, and the how, the facilitation in interest rates are lower in Europe, tagged to Euribor. So sometimes it's better to gear on the investment and put a small amount down and borrow money. So that little checklist of where, why, when, what, and how is a good little process to run through, we think, coupled with all the things that Joanna said a moment ago. So that's kind of two answers in one question, Steve.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. Paul, we haven't heard from you for a little while, and I want to come to you with this next one. This is around, obviously, investment in infrastructure. So how is investment in such as transportation impacting property values in Portugal? As from what I understand, there's a new high-speed rail being built and a new airport as well. And how do events such as the World Cup coming to Portugal in 2030 do for the marketplace?
Well, I mean, we've just seen France put on a fabulous event in Paris with the Olympics. And if you go back to 2012 in the UK, the London Olympics, the area of Stratford, which I know Phil was involved in selling some developments in there back in that, period after the Olympics. And, what's gone on in that marketplace and how infrastructure and regeneration, what it can do, that's become possibly the most go-to destination in London at the moment. And I know Joanna's got similar projects like that on the fringes of Lisbon that would, offer similar growth value, similarly with what Phil's doing in the Central Algarve. The infrastructure and in terms of what's going on, Qatar, had the World Cup. Portugal, a football nation, having a World Cup final in 2030. I imagine it's going to go crazy in terms of the demand and how, sport and infrastructure, a lot of education related infrastructure and work that's going on. I was on a call yesterday with a alternate investment fund for golden visas in Portugal, and they've got amazing projects that are coming on, and they're all coming on stream because of the demand, but because of the infrastructure that's going with it. And that's what's bringing entrepreneurs, and that's what's continuing to bring the money.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. Obviously, we're talking of developments, and again, I'm very conscious of the time, but I know, Joanna, that you have a couple of slides of some of the home development partners in and around Lisbon, as Paul's mentioning, that you wanted to share with us for a few minutes, and obviously some background on it. I heard that the pre-launch phase sold 40% in just 2 weeks. could you obviously give us some thoughts on why such a huge demand? And I'll just share those slides for you.
Yes, with pleasure. So as I said, we work a lot like buyer advisors, so we have access to all the product in the market, and that's how we do. We usually present all the opportunities that are best suitable for each client. We just brought this as an example of an emerging location just like 15 minutes from the airport. So basically it's a really interesting area that is connected to Expo 98, which is called Parque das Nações location, both on the water with a sidewalk, but also from public transports. And basically we were really surprised with the level of reservations in this pre-launch, mainly from Portuguese, okay, but also with some international clients stepping in, because the lifestyle that you have just close to the water, the connections to Lisbon center, it's really, really close. And basically this is being developed by one of the main builders in Portugal, and they will create a really new neighborhood, okay, with a lot of activity, restaurants, good infrastructures, medical clinics, school, shops, and again, luxury amenities. And when it comes to price, we are positioned basically 30% less than Lisbon. And this is very interesting. So what I would say is in Portugal, there's a really opportunity to buy premium real estate at quite affordable prices. So not everything will be on the luxury high-end prices. And you can have a luxury lifestyle, I would say, in a safe place with excellent amenities. And basically with still prices that are really interesting, even compared to other countries. So people can enjoy and they can live in a very, very high quality development, but also very close to Lisbon center, okay? And this is just an example. Like I said, we didn't want it to bring a lot of things that could fill in the space. This is one example, but there are many more like this in emerging locations that we feel are very interesting. And we like to think outside of the box a little bit, not looking just for the same as everyone is looking, and looking at these neighborhoods that will really develop and bring excellent opportunities to clients.
Thank you, Jonah. That was really interesting to see how a new area of Lisbon is emerging and being developed along with all the infrastructures by such obviously a prestigious developer. I know I'm really conscious of the time, and I really want to use the last part of today's webinar to address some of the chat questions from what has been a very engaged audience. As I said before, we will try to answer as many as we can before we close. But as I said earlier, we will get back to everybody, and we can arrange a specific discovery call to discuss your specific questions and those real estate goals that you have in Portugal. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these questions. So we have a question in from George, and I'm going to go to Paul on this one. George says, I'm interested in the potential for property investments in lesser known or overblown in terms of value in Lisbon and the Algarve. Are there any up and coming areas that are not fully on the radar or exploited, but show promising growth potential as well as Portuguese authenticity? A bit of a long one, but I think you got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've just been listening to them, haven't we? Joanna just, that area she just described, a short metro trip into the city of Lisbon, so you can have all the great benefits, but the views of the Tagus River there and all the infrastructure being put in by the developer who've got co-responsibility for the properties, and that's where you're going to get the value. And similarly, with Philip's organization, 20 odd years of experience of creating investor value for their projects around the world, and then coming to Portugal, our research on the Central Algarve, there's no doubt that places like Ferraguda, Carverio, Benagil, Lagoa, Silvas, which is a very small area on the outskirts of Central Algarve, went up 10% in July, but that's because some of the places in the central locations that everybody drives towards, naturally, like the Golden Triangle in the Algarve or central Lisbon, they're starting from a much higher point. And I think, we've got two perfect examples here been presented today.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, we got questions flying in. So we've got one here from Katie, and I'm going to go to Joanna for this one. And Katie says, as our family are moving from the US, what support other than researching and finding the right property, as we don't have a clue about local amenities, important things, finding the right builder or plumber, gardener, etc. What do I need to take care of and source the right professional people?
So actually, our company, we do like a 360 bespoke approach, and basically not only from the first initial searching of the property, the right property for each person, but for those that are relocating or they want to have a holiday home or invest. We also have a concierge and property management that will help people with all these kind of things. So from helping to set up a mortgage or basically the legal side of things or tax side of things, to also property manage the property, like finding a babysitter or a plumber or electrician or a builder. We actually cover all of that because, as I told you, 80% of our clientele is foreigners. So we do really understand the need of having someone trust, and basically we act as a trusted partner to all our clients and to address their needs. Okay, so basically you can be reassured that basically we will offer you all the possibilities in the market, not just one development, but also the services that you may need to be like a smooth transition.
Lovely. Thank you, Joanna.
Steve, on that point, it's worth mentioning, obviously, when we see this, a lot of people that come to Portugal, they don't know these intricacies, these locations, the contacts, and having the right partners. Joanna and there are other companies like those in Portugal that will hold your hand. And I know Bill's group, I've seen it firsthand. They take clients, they don't take them to the development first. They take them to the local people. They take them to the local restaurants. They take them to the vineyard. They take them to the beaches. And it's important that when you work with partners, that you have people that basically help you find what holistically you're looking for. Not, I want this kind of property, because that, unless you build the lifestyle, you build the what's around it, you'll end up with a mismatch between your life and your home.
Yeah, it's true.
Well said, Paul. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. We have a question here from Miranda, and Phil, I want to go to you on this one. When people talk about the luxury market in Portugal and new home developments or gated communities, how do you avoid this becoming too homogenized and losing some of the local identity? Obviously, she wants luxury, but she doesn't want to lose the feeling that I'm in Portugal.
Okay, Steve. Well, it sounds to me like Miranda spent too much time in Quinta del Lago, as probably we have over the years, for many, many years. And when you start looking outside of the Golden Triangle, you come away from that homogenized type environment. And I love it there. There's great restaurants there. And, I'll often stay at the Comrade. So maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite. But when you're looking for value, and you can drift in different directions, so where we are, 30, 35 minutes down the road, down the A22 to Ferragudo, you can buy exactly the same products at about quarter of the price. And that whole business about how do you rediscover the typical Portuguese culture, you wander down those cobblestone streets, you go to the little fishing village of Ferragudo, you sit outside Sueste restaurant, one of the best fish restaurants in the Algarve, and you have those sardines cooked for you there on the grill in front of you on the quayside. You get that feel and that taste for the local vineyards. We've got a great vineyard around the corner from where we are. That's where I see that point of differentiation to come to Miranda specifically and say, just keep an open mind, because in those early years, we didn't have an open mind. We stayed in that central area, and there's more to Portugal than just that that element. And you get all of those beautiful things with beaches and restaurants and vineyards, and you can get the same property or maybe even better for maybe a fraction of the price. So that's what I'd say, Steve, to that question.
I'm sure Miranda will take your points on board and venture out. Brilliant.
Thank you.
I've got one more question, as again we've sort of gone over our allotted time, and I'm conscious of everyone has got things to get on with, panelists and audience. So the last one is from Ian. Ian is asking, my wife and I are looking to relocate to the Algarve, and we were wondering what the best location would be for international private schools for our children. He believes Faro and Lagoa both offer really good choices. So again, I know, Paul, do you want to take that one? You got something?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, there's fabulous international schools around Lisbon. There's some STEM schools there. We've helped recently an international family moved to Lisbon, and as Joanna said earlier, they picked the school first and then the property. And the Nobel Algarve British International School in Lagoa, which is 15 kilometres away from where Quinta Heights is another great example. And right across Portugal, the things that can be offered for families and their children are really diverse and many options for international schools. It's one of the best places you can choose, and it's evolving almost by the day because of, again, the demand out there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. So thank you, everybody. Apologies that we didn't get to all of your questions today. But as I said, don't worry, our team will come back and answer everybody's questions after the event, or, as I said, arrange a discovery call with one of the partners. As we're nearing the end of the webinar, hopefully we haven't taken up too much of your time. Thank you to our highly engaged audience, and of course, thank you to our experienced and expert panelists for their valuable insight. Before I wrap up, I'm just going to ask the panelists to each leave the audience with sort of one key takeaway from today's discussion about obviously building, buying, or investing in a new build home in Portugal. And I'm going to say ladies first. So, Joanna?
Well, I would say that keep your mind open to new opportunities for sure. And again, we are here exactly for advising people and to help opening your mind with security and to guide you on really interesting opportunities in Portugal.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Paul, and we'll finish with Phil.
Yeah, I think, don't just go for the shiny thing out there in terms of, do your research, have your partners, go out there and experience it. But, make sure, you pick people that you're going to work with that are going to really think about you holistically. When we get many people say, well, just send me properties. And I saw Joanna and Phil have this, but ultimately you've got to actually build the plan for someone's life and think about what you want first before sending me loads of properties. That is the wrong way round to approach it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I think just picking up on Paul's point there, just earlier today, I had a guy and his wife drive up from the south coast, 3.5 hours to see me in my office, interested in buying at Quinta Heights. And the first thing we asked them, and we spent probably 2 hours with them, was, just let me understand what's important to you. Let me understand why you're buying, and is it for investment or lifestyle, and what's important, because our thing might be right. you, it might not, but let's just understand where you are. And it goes to the core of research and doing your homework and trying to marry up the right property with the right person for the right reasons, wherever it is. And, take a good look at it. Don't buy anything at distance. Go and kick the tires of the investment, have a good look at it, and only really buy what's right for you. Just do your own homework. So echoing what both Joanna and Paul said there, and maybe adding a little bit to that, that's what I would say, Steve.
Thank you very much, everybody, for those for that insight. Just to say, finally, within the next 24 hours or so, everybody will receive a watch back recording of the webinar and obviously a copy of the report on property market index report, I should say, in terms of Portugal's property hotspots. In the meantime, if you have a question or want to contact us, please visit our website on www.portugalpathways.io. And don't forget to register for our next exclusive webinar on Tuesday, the 17th of September, entitled Why Portugal is the #1 country to relocate in the world. Again, just need to say thank you very much. You've been a very engaged audience. Thank you for all the questions and all the comments. Thank you to our panelists, to Paul, to Phil, and to Joanna. Until next time, stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.